I'm here with John Schlesinger, who heads up the Atos Consulting Enterprise Architecture practice. And I've been reading on nextpracticeadvisory.com of your views on service-oriented architecture and whether that, far from being the answer to all IT's ills, may even result in people heading down the wrong direction, and was in some ways in conflict with your views on enterprise architecture. John, I'd be interested to explore some of the problems that you see from a service-oriented architecture approach, which to the layman, of course, would seem a more than sensible way to attack the complexities that we face in IT.
Yes, so it's quite hard to pin down service-oriented architecture, but I think the service-oriented architecture I'm saying doesn't work is the service-oriented architecture represented by the IBM reference model and the way I typically see it implemented by IBM's customers. And I'm not particularly picky on IBM because Oracle and Microsoft basically have the same problems. I think one of the issues is that SOA is a great marketing message and is a very compelling argument. It's just, it doesn't happen to work. It's a specious argument. It's like a barrister's argument. So to give you an example of it not working, I recently was asked by the CIO of a major bank to go and help them with their integration architecture because it was in trouble. And when I got there, I discovered that they'd been taking 60 days and $60,000 to do an interface. And the industry benchmark for that is 20 days and $20,000. So they were 3 times the industry benchmark for doing interfaces. And they'd gone to SOA for doing their integration interfaces, and in their first few proof of concepts, they'd gone from 60 days to 200 days and $200,000. So they were now 10 times the industry standard. And when I looked at what they were doing, they were building new applications for each integration interface, which is a very expensive way of doing it. It's also, in my opinion, missing the point of an integration interface.
Because SOA is all about sticking stuff together, having module services and making it all talk to each other, I guess, in concept.
Well, it's not clear what it's for. I like to be very clear about building new applications being one thing, and then integrating the applications you've got being another, right? And I think it's very confusing in the reference architectures for SOA how you do one versus the other, and they tend to be mingled up. I mean, if you read the IBM SOA architecture reference guide, it muddles up building applications and integrating applications all over the place.
So taking those one at a time, the integration piece first.
So my view of integration is that the bulk of the integration that my customers need to do is swivel chair integration. So currently they enter things twice, and they want to enter it once and then have a message to do the second one. And that can be done very simply, and in fact, if you follow our reference architecture for integration, we think we can handily beat the 20,000 20-day cycle for event-driven interface.
So Atos Consulting has a reference architecture in the same way
Yes.
that IBM describes it.
Yeah. If we look at building applications, I'm much happier building new applications using REST than using web services and SOA. So my integration architecture is event-driven, it doesn't use services, and my application architecture is REST, representational state transfer, with WebE, and not web services. Basically, I don't really go for the SOA architecture at all.
So the RESTful architecture is the architecture upon which the web works. Is that fair to say?
Yes, the HTTP 1.1 is based on REST.
And you'd say that was a fairly successful architecture.
It's the most successful architecture the world's ever seen.
And you think that's totally replicatable to business applications?
Absolutely, yes.
And that's your central thesis. And so in your view, is REST completely at odds with an SOA philosophy?
I wouldn't say it's completely at odds, but it's a very well thought out architectural style, and it's very hard to see what the SOA architectural style is. People have tried to cast SOA as an architectural style, but then you get religious arguments between the SOA aficionados.
Is it true to say that REST is an architectural style which has evolved and therefore can be proved to work, whereas SOA is a theory that has been shoehorned into practice.
That's an interesting view. You can certainly say that REST has been proved to work because it's built the most scalable network we've ever seen. REST, of course, and the web doesn't say anything about integration. There's nothing there to help you with integration. You have to do a different architectural style. And we have developed an architectural style for doing that here at Atos.
That's very interesting. Again, more of this can be found on nextpracticeadvisory.com for the time being. Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome.